and welcome to the Planning Subcommittee meeting. I'm Councillor Barbara Blake. I am the chair of this committee, and if I can ask members to introduce themselves, please. Starting with Councillor Bevan.
Councillor John Bevan, Vice Chair of Planning.
Councillor Cathy Brennan, I'm Councillor for Muswell Hill.
Councillor Alex Worrell, Stroud Green.
John O'Donovan, Councillor for Tottenham Hale.
Scott Emery, Councillor for Highgate Ward.
Tottenham Hale.
Okay, thank you. Could officers present introduce themselves, please? Starting on
Cody Sprott, Principal Committee Coordinator.
Justin Farley, Legal Officer.
Rob Shasovsky, Director of Planning and Building Standards.
Catherine Smith, Head of Development Management and Planning Enforcement.
Sam Luff, Principal Planning Officer.
Richard Truscott, Design Officer.
Thank you very much. And if there are any officers in attendance virtually, they'll introduce themselves when relevant. So now on to item 1, which is filming at meetings. This meeting is being recorded. All registered speakers should be aware that they will be recorded for live or subsequent broadcast via the council's internet site or by anyone attending the meeting. Item 2 is the planning protocol. Members and speakers are requested to note the information set out at item 2 in the agenda. Item 3 is apologies, and we have received apologies from Councillor Amin, Councillor Bartlett and Councillor Collette. Yes, Councillor.
Oh, sorry, I was just about to give Councillor Colette's apologies. Unfortunately, she was involved in an incident on Saturday and is in hospital, but she wanted to. She just rang me to pass on her apologies.
Oh dear, I hope you'll pass on our best wishes to Councillor Collette. Right, item 4 is urgent business, and there are no items of urgent business. Item 5, declarations of interest. Do members have any declarations of interest, please? No? Okay. Item 6 is the minutes of the meetings held on the 29th of July. Are these agreed? Okay. Councillor Donovan.
Sorry, Chair. Yes, I sent an email related to this, but I was asked to raise it so it would be on the minutes. It was just to say that in the declarations of interest, I actually declare that I'm vice chair, not chair of Alexander Palace and Board. It's a position allocated by the council, unpaid, and therefore I don't have any pecuniary interests in item number 9 of last month's meeting.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that clarification, and that's noted. Thank you. So are the minutes, with that clarification, are the minutes agreed? Thank you. Right, so we are now on to item 9, which is the planning application, St Anne's General Hospital, St Anne's Road. That's in the pack. I'm not going to read that out. The recommendation is to grant, and I'll hand over to Sam to give the introduction and the presentation, please.
Evening all. So this is the application for St Anne's Phase 3. This is a reserve matters application for the appearance, landscaping, layout and scale relating to Phase 3, associated with the outline component of the hybrid planning permission HUI 2022-1833. There's a lot more in the description there, but I'll go through that in more detail as we go through. The application is also supported by details of a number of conditions that were submitted alongside the reserve matters, and these will be discussed in detail as we go through as well. So just a bit of background on the scheme. The hybrid permission was approved for 995 new homes, including approximately 60% affordable homes of a mix of tenures. The hybrid permission also included the retention of 7 hospital buildings and creation of 5,000 square metres within the retained new buildings of non-residential floor space. That approval also included extensive landscape enhancements, public realm and play areas, as well as a green connection to the sites of important nature conservation at the bottom of the screen, and greater permeability for a southwest access.
Can I be shown from these papers the proposals for redecoration, building materials and so on? And can I ask why they're not visible tonight on this meeting so we actually see what's being planned? There's an awful lot of time between last time this came before the committee and now. Surely you could arrange the materials to be shown to the committee.
I've got a couple of slides on materials, but no, I don't have any physical samples. I don't have any physical samples here. No, I'm afraid.
Okay, thank you. If you could carry on.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, just to pick up there, a bit of background on the scheme. And if you look on the screen here, phase 1A was for part of the full planning permission within the hybrid, and is now substantially completed. And we had a look at that on site. Phase 1B and 2 and 3, which are here, were approved with outline permission with matters reserved. 1B and 2, the reserved matters, was approved in 2023. And for a current application in phase 3, there was also the approval of a design code which set out the design expectations for the reserved matter submissions and parameter plans that set out maximum footprints and heights. All the uses in the affordable home specifications were set out within that original permission in section 106, and there's no need to visit those as part of this application. So this is the northern part of the site is within conservation area, St Anne's conservation area, and is adjacent to St Anne's Road there. So phase 3 includes the 2 red boxes that you can see here at the top of the screen and the larger red lined area here. The plan also shows the retained buildings within the site, including the admin building, which we looked at the end of the Peace Garden, the buildings retained on St Anne's Road, which are the East and West Lodges and Mulberry House, and the water tower, which is not part of this phase, but I know it is of interest to committee. So then looking at this application specifically, we have 291 new homes, 54% of which will be affordable across a mix of tenures. This forms part of 60% total achieved for the sites as a whole. The site will provide 434 square metres of non-residential floor space, and that's part of that 5,000 square metres approved throughout the site. This part of the site also includes the provision of the service tree grove, along with one access up here, and the hospital link, which provides the second access, as well as cycle parking and full-time parking bays, including blue badge spaces. And to emphasise, the access maximum heights of footprints are set through the previous approvals. So just looking at the landscape and public realm, a bit more detail there. This is the landscaping. We have the 2 axes there, which are the service tree grove, which links into the semi-public realm of the courtyard for Block M. And then there's the other courtyard area for Block L, which again is semi-public. The Eastern Orchard, which is down in the southern corner of this site, and the hospital link, which is another landscaped area coming in through here from the hospital site. So there's diverse range of new trees being proposed for planting in phase 3. This providing 90 new trees as part of the 471 trees planted throughout the site, and a considerable number that have been retained on site as well. just looking here at the development plot typologies, we have the 3-story terrace in block K at the bottom of the screen here. The 7 and 8-story massing of plot M and plot L on the frontage onto the Peace Garden. And we have the 6-story massing of L3 and M3 beyond that. And then the lower massing of plot N, which is 4 and part 4 and 3-story. And on the frontage here, we have plots 01 and 02, which are more conventional 2 3-story terrace of housing there. And looking at that context for the wider site as well, so we've got the Peace Garden in the middle here, and we've got the larger massing fronted onto that within our site. Worth noting the 9-story height on the western side of the Peace Garden and on the southern side here, and also on that align the site of important nature conservation at the rear here. You also see the transition of heights from the larger massing on the frontage in the proposed sites, and that's reflected in on the other side of Peace Garden, and then the staggered transition of massing towards the east and west boundaries. So that's reflected in our sites as well. There was a question on site about the affordable housing, and just asking for a little bit of detail about what the terminology meant. So in terms of the London affordable rent, this is already within the Section 106, but it refers to below market rates capped at 80% of local market rent, and that can be significantly lower. Same characteristics as rented social rented houses, but is subject to other rent controls. London living rent is rents which are set at or below 1/3 of local household incomes and are reviewed annually and determined by GLA. So these also have a stable tenancy of 3 years and tenant break clauses. You can see within the pie chart here the mix of affordable housing tenures that are offered, with the orange representing London living rent, yellow London affordable rent, and the blue as the shared ownership. The other part is the private sale. Again, just looking at that in terms of the site layout here, the private is in the turquoisey green colour at the 2 fronts here and along the bottom for block K. Blue is the shared ownership. Yellow is the London living rent, and orange is the London affordable rent. Just to emphasise that this is compliant with the Section 106. So some of the key features of that are that it provides up to a maximum of 995 new homes. The entire site achieves that 60% target for affordable homes by habitable rooms. There are a minimum of 53% London affordable rent. And in terms of the intermediate rent as well is 44%. The intermediate rent was actually capped at 43%, but it did allow the leniency for additional if it saw fit, and we still see that extra 1% as a small impact in the wider scheme. There was also a question about some of the typologies of the London living rent and London affordable rent that we had approved on this site. And this is for the site-wide tenures they're looking at. And there we've got the community housing, which is part of LLR, as is the NHS staffing housing, and also older adults as part of a London affordable rent product. So to reiterate, the parameter plans set the layout of heights, and these are complied with throughout. The design code, which let's give a bit of detail on here, sets out a series of requirements and suggestions, including guidance on architectural approach, materiality, landscaping, layout of streetscape and gardens, etc. These slides show the expectation for the materiality and design tones within the site. And the top image there is of the lighter tones that we have facing onto the Peace Gardens, and then slightly deeper tone onto the conservation area in the second picture, and then the redder shades that are towards the eastern edge of the site towards the hospital. The design code as a whole is all broadly complied with, and where in some instances, or just in 3 instances, it is not, there are generally going against suggestions rather than specific requirements. So just looking at some of the key images for the appearance of these blocks, we've got the main blocks that face onto the Peace Gardens, create an attractive frontage. This is presented as a 7-storey massing for Block M and 8-storey for Block L. These have a contextual relationship with the rest of the sites, and also have architectural language in keeping with the wider master plan site as a new coherent neighbourhood we expected. These have generous inset balconies, window openings, and views onto the open spaces. Block M in the base here has the commercial ground floor, and these 2 blocks comply entirely with the parameter plans in terms of height and design code. Just on the side here, looking at the side of Block L, so the Peace Garden here, side of Block L here. This is the larger massing, as I was mentioned earlier, with the staggered shoulder height of part L2 here, Block L2, and then the 6-storey height of Block L3 beyond, and then the 3-storey height of Block M beyond that, and then further to that you see the hospital site. So that does create that transition of height from the Peace Gardens towards the hospital site. As I say, that reflects what was on the original approved Phase 1A. The blocks broken up by tree-lined streets and public spaces, and they provide good views onto the Peace Gardens and into other amenity spaces within the courtyards there. This just shows that context of the new building of Block M in relation to Block C, and you see the similar sort of massing there and overall design. You can also see that context of the 9 stories here on either side of the Peace Garden, and other massing within the other phases there. This CGI shows you the high quality design replicating what we saw on site in the finished buildings, which almost finished currently under construction, with Block M on the left and Block L just next to that, and then these are the other site buildings within phase 1B and 2, which have recently been approved. So just in terms of the floor layouts, these are some typical layouts for those blocks within L and M. These blocks have had to incorporate a 2-core arrangement and connected corridor as a response to updated fire regulations, which wasn't something that was apparent in the outline permission or in previous phases of development. The 2-bedroom dwellings are genuine dual aspect. You can see these as the orange and browny colours here. The yellow units in the centre part here, because of the longer core, these are more single aspect and within the approved layout of the plots. These are all west facing and have generous balconies. And we saw an example of that on site as well, and have these help with the overheating and also provide an oblique secondary view from those windows. They also have the desirable views onto the Peace Gardens or into the courtyard areas there. So this is a view here just of the side of Block M and the frontage onto St Anne's Road. You see the 5-storey shoulder height there, which was the other part we picked up on the corresponding block in C on the site visit. And you see the edge of the Peace Garden. We did actually look at this view from the street when we were on site the other day. This quite small slide, so it does show the entire street context. So it does necessitate being a bit small. But this does show the entire street frontage and the similar scale of these proposed buildings in keeping with the existing buildings within there. So we've got plot 02 here and plot 01, Mulberry House, the east and west gate lodges, and the approved plot A we have here. So this was what we saw from the marketing suite the other day, and this is effectively where the marketing suite is at the moment. The idea here is that it retains that character of the conservation area, and that same architectural language. So that's architectural language shown here in plot 01 and in the context of Mulberry House and both the East and West Lodge buildings. So the gable and dormer designs respond to those of previous approvals and of the retained language of the buildings. And the conservation officer is satisfied that this would lead to a low level of less than substantial harm. And it's in full support of the proposal. This is just looking at that detail of plot O, and you do have a bit of a look at some of those brick typologies there. Apologies again for not having that as a sample here. But you do see those gable designs, the inset dormers, which are replicated in the original plot A and also in the retained buildings. Plot 02, this is the first plot we see as you sort of look into the site. This again would follow the language of 01 and the street frontage. The QRP had commented that the entrance to the site lacked heft, in their words, and this was as a response to this, the applicant has defined this as more of a special corner house with the gable and pitch roofs on here. So those are similar to what we have in Mulberry House and of the bays in O1 and A1. And it's also, you can also see on the second slide here, the access to the site from the hospital site through the Service Tree Grove. And the rear of these buildings presents as a frontage to the secondary road access, whereas the street frontage is covered by the wall there. This is just again looking at those gables and how this fits within the existing building. So that's got the retained Mulberry House on the right hand side there, and then the lighter shade of brick we have on the frontage here. So just to continue into the site, this is plot N, which backs onto the hospital site on the far east of the site. This presents as 2 rows of 3-story houses on either side, with a 4-story maisonettes and galley access apartments within there. This is in broad compliance with the design and parameter cut plans. The only deviation on this is to do with where the initial design code sought to have a single central core, but the final design presents as 2 distinct cores. And also a number of flats for the maisonette, openings for the maisonettes onto the street frontage here. So that does have the benefit of having less units per core and also activating that frontage. So those are seen as positive deviations from the design code. And then just looking at the rear of the site, again, this was something that QRP and officers had discussion with the applicants on. And just ensuring that this was an activated frontage. They've got the galley access here, which is the open rear accesses, walkways into the flats there. These have been sort of recessed and in keeping with the rest of the building. And they also introduced a number of Juliet balconies and larger window openings on here, which was seen as a way of activating that frontage and responding more to that hospital site as well. So we believe that was a successful change in this submission. And again, just looking at some of the floor plans there. So we've got the 2 communal entrances for block N here. The lower 2 floors are the larger units. These are 3 and 5 bed maisonettes, and on the upper floors, the upper 2 floors, there are 1 and 2 bed flats. These are predominantly dual aspect throughout. All the lower floors are dual aspect, and the yellow ones here are all 1 bed units. They have a single aspect, but again with the generous balcony areas. And that oblique view through the side panel in the balcony there, and also they do have the galley access here, so you've got that open frontage as you enter the house as well. This is the CGI just showing the frontage of block N, and you can see here those recessed balconies, the large recessed balcony incorporated into the design. and they're similar to those within Block M, so really coherent design between the two blocks there. It also shows the tree-lined streets, small gardens within the frontage there, and all those active frontages from the individual doors. And then just a quick look here at Plot K, which is in the southern corner of the site. And these are 3-story blocks, which are in keeping with the, three-story houses, I should say. And they're in keeping with the overall high quality of the design and scheme. So that's a CGI there of Block K, looking into the site from the hospital site access, or the hospital link. And on here you see Block K on the left, or Plot K on the left, and the edge of Plot L on the right hand side there. So just in terms of those other conditions that have been submitted alongside the reserve matters, there was a requirement for certain conditions to be submitted. We have condition 63, 65, which were just a compliance conditions of what to be submitted. Cycle provision, which is detailed throughout the application, and also we have a condition attached to this which would ensure delivery of those cycle bays. Accessible housing, which is compliant throughout. Fire statement, which is being introduced through Gateway 1, and this would be further controlled through Gateway 2 subsequent to planning. The ecological impact assessment, which is acceptable, and there is a further condition number 32, which controls and monitors the maintenance of that. Number 70, circular economy, is again acceptable, and further condition 7 ensures that monitoring. 71 for surface water drainage, which we do broadly happy with. We've got a condition on there which just needs to have all of the results sort of knitted together, and that would be a pre-commencement condition. Boundary wall, which is on the eastern boundary, and that is only a partial approval because it does also require details of schedule for the construction, which will be provided prior to commencement on site. And there's also a climate change adaptation, which is provided sufficient detail. There are also some pre-commencement conditions which were submitted alongside for reference within this. We've got the car parking management plan, which provided sufficient detail, including blue badge bays and further allocations, which could be provided through the travel plan. The energy strategy, which is fine, although there will be further condition 74, which will provide details of the pipeline, pipework, for the future connections to the energy network. And finally, condition 80, which is the overheating stress strategy, which is sufficient in detail and also provides detailed passive design measures incorporated into the design. This provides 79% above Part L of building regulations and highly energy efficient units. So in summary, to reiterate, the access was approved within the outline permission. The design and parameters have been suitably complied with. The development proposes an attractive design consistent with the other plots. And this provides high quality layouts and living conditions consistent with those other plots as well. The desirable shaded and sunlit open spaces within the site, and highly energy efficient units incorporating passive design and renewable energy measures. All other considerations are considered to be acceptable. As such, approval is recommended for the reserve matters application for phase 3. Approval is also recommended for all the conditions listed in the report, other than 72, which is a partial approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. So do the committee have any questions, any points of clarification? Okay, so Councillor Emery.
Thank you, Chair. Did the council consider a mixed tenure site in this site to try and gain some of the social cohesion benefits? The main reason I've seen for avoiding it elsewhere is that, you know, it's tricky when it's spread out and you can't access different parts of the site. But obviously, this is quite a large site with a lot of developments very close together. Is considered here.
So just trying to find a relevant slide for that. Yeah, so it's got a mix of tenures within this, but they all are served by their individual cores, even when the cores are connected. So that any management and that sort of thing is easily dealt with. The it's a mix of tenures, but I think that's obviously a benefit, and obviously you've got a high amount of affordable housing provided within this. So overall, it's a big benefit there.
Sorry, I was talking about in the building, each building specifically, rather than across the entire development.
Yeah, no, that's not seen as a problem. We've got Peabody here with us as well today, who'll be managing the site. So yeah, they're on board. And they will be on site as well. So that's a big benefit for that. Where they have the connected cores, they still have sort of individual accesses for each of those. And there is still the sort of mix of all of those amenity spaces within there. So there's no sort of segregation in that regard either.
Councillor Brennan?
Can I just affirm that you actually set out the levels, your affordable housing, none of it's social rent. Was that already worked out a while back? So there's nothing new in that, because it does seem regrettable that we haven't got any social housing properly social housing, priced affordable housing in this development. It's sort of London Living Wage and London affordable, but you could have proper social housing. We haven't got any at all in it. And the other thing is, when you look at the definitions, it looks quite expensive actually. 80% of local market rent doesn't look that low at all.
Yeah, I'll take it the first instance, but yeah, in terms of what's set within the Section 106, there obviously was it's provided a really high amount of affordable housing throughout. The London affordable rent would be seen as that sort of closest to the social housing model you mentioned there. But yeah, it's set within the Section 106 as to what those targets should be. But yeah, I don't know if Rob or Catherine want to talk on the wider issues of affordable housing.
Chair, if I may, I'll just add to that. It's worth saying, sort of separate to the strict planning permission, but the council is purchasing a number of the affordable housing units, and it can look at the rent levels there on a sort of improved basis. So that is happening. The council is purchasing a number of the units as well with improved affordability. So it's slightly separate to the sort of pure strict planning issues, but this is a key site as part of the council's housing schemes. Thank you.
Councillor Bevan?
So can you go back to the previous slide and can you point out the bit that's going to be council, or is that not decided yet?
That might be one for Peabody to pick up. If I don't know if we bring them in later or.
Okay, yeah, I will get the applicant to answer that. Maybe if you could just answer that. Let me think. Right. Let's just see let's hold that question. Let's see what the rest of the questions are, because there may be a few.
And then are they all kitchen diners, or are there any separate kitchens? And it's really good that the architect's being retained. So that's really good. And my last point is the store, which has to provide clear oversight. I'm a bit concerned in the management of that. For want of a better word, we get a tatty store that gets all the windows covered with posters, no one can see in, like you see some shops on the high road, a complete mess. Are you satisfied you'll be able to manage that?
Okay, can you answer those questions now? Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so coming from the top, it's not yet confirmed which homes Haringey will purchase in the final phase, but we have earmarked, if we can show up the wider context plan, that'd be helpful. There's actually very few homes in this phase. They have the bulk of the homes in phase 1B and 2, which is currently under demolition. So it's plot, if you can see plot N1 and N4, it's the two small terraces of houses at the end of plot N are the homes identified for Haringey. Possibly doing this out of sequence, but London affordable rent is, I find it very misleading. 80% of market rent is technically true, but it is actually substantially below that. So the current benchmark levels in London, £168 a week for a one bed, £178 a week for a two bed. And importantly, that includes service charge. So it's not wildly different to old social rent levels. There was a question on estate management, possibly. Kitchen diners, thank you. Yes, we have in the affordable houses, 3+ bed houses, we have separate kitchen diners to living rooms. All other homes, it's open plan. And the maisonettes, yeah, thank you. And retaining the architect, yes, we are. I'm very pleased that behind me are the architects, so they are. Karakusic Carson are with us throughout, so yeah.
And I think there was about the
Oh, the convenience
shop,
store.
the store.
Yes, yeah. So we don't have an operator on board yet. It's still some years away before we'll have an operator, or rather, some years away until the building's ready. So don't have an operator yet. We have, I think, ended up with a planning condition where we'll have to have some of the designs of the store pre-approved, so that can wrap this up. So I think we can cover that off. I think we need to be cognizant that some operators will have an amount of advertising, and we want to allow that, but we're also extremely proud of this estate and want to make sure it's managed, and will manage it excellently. So the stores that you see around that are literally covered in stickers and adverts, that won't be happening here. Is the short answer, having given the long answer.
Councillor Worrell?
Thanks. It was just to build on Councillor Brennan's point. I just wondered if the officers could sort of outline the approach to the different tenure types that was taken, and if we feel that we've sort of like maximised the most affordable types of quote unquote affordable housing that's being delivered within what is considered to be viable, and sort of, yeah, how those decisions were taken. Thanks.
Yeah, do we start? No, yeah, just I think it's key to sort of have that consideration within the sort of planning permissions and a lot of schemes we bring here as well. I think we should be cognizant of the fact that this is reserved matters for the hybrid permission, which was approved previously, and that this is sort of set within that section 106, and obviously they have to budget for each of these phases within that original permission, and they have achieved within the target of all of the affordable housing that was required within that, and obviously it's 60% is a very high proportion as well, so it is a benefit within that. But yeah, the answer would have been it would have been a big consideration in viability in the initial application, although saying that it's above the policy requirements. So yeah, it's
Councillor Worrell, did you want to come back?
Yeah, I could be just remembering wrong, but I thought that what was agreed in the outline application, I think there was a lot of emphasis on that up to 900 and whatever the number is, sorry, figure, and the percentage of affordable, and I didn't think it had been so prescriptive as to what specific tenure types there would be, and so I thought there was scope to sort of, you know, maximize some of the most cheap ones. I might just be completely remembering that wrong. So in the original one, were there already quite specific targets as to which types of affordable would be delivered?
Yeah, exactly right, and it's also a site-wide figure as well. So there might be more of certain models in earlier phases, and then this one is sort of picking up that slack from that. Because this is actually 54% affordable on this site, but it is sort of building into that overall figure of 60% as well.
Councillor Rice?
Curiosity, what actually happened to the cooling tower?
Glad you've asked that question, Councillor Rice. I was going to ask that myself. The water.
I've got another question.
Oh, okay, all right.
The trees that be retained, could you say what types of trees that be retained?
Yeah, well, there's a over 130 or so retained on the site. In the Eastern Orchard, which is the area we were looking at in the corner, I'm trying to find a good plan for you. I've gone completely wrong way. So the Eastern Orchard down here, this was referred to as an orchard because of the fact that there were a lot of mature fruit trees within there, and so that's been sort of enhanced as part of that. The whole layout of this scheme, obviously I wasn't involved in the original, but the layouts and the design of the scheme was sort of really based around the fact that you wanted to retain that peace garden and the links to the sink at the rear of at the bottom of the site here, and just retain those as many trees as you can really. So I'm sure the applicant will have something to say on that if you want to push forward. But yeah, it's very commendable they've retained so many interesting trees within this site.
Yeah, so what's going to happen to the water cooling tower? And I know a lot of work was done to retain a lot of the old or the trees. So if you could just talk about that, please.
Yep, the water tower, technically phase 1A, but it's everyone's favourite topic. So we've done a piece of work during the summer to bottom out any of the niche interest, shall I call it, that we've had over the years. We've had some unusual interest in it, which I've probably fed back in this forum. Things like a climbing wall and things like that, music studio, sort of slightly unusual uses. We've gone through a marketing exercise over the summer, and in a nutshell, those sort of unusual uses aren't going to work here, unfortunately. So we're proposing to bring it forward now as part of our workspace offer. So it would be things like sort of artist studios and creative studios. I believe you have quite a lot of workspace in the borough, so you're probably familiar with that kind of use. Answer your question? Yeah. I can move on to trees. Yeah.
Yes.
Trees.
Please, yeah.
Well, without wishing to go on to sort of a big crusade, we're extremely pleased with our landscape master plan, as has probably been reported here before. So do people know that the very vague history here? There was a Kew Gardens employee that was reportedly working in the hospital in the 20s and 30s and planted hundreds of trees, so that we inherited the site from the NHS and the GLA with almost 300 identified semi-mature trees, and then a further 400, 500, 600 smaller trees, and we've retained almost all of those in our master plan. In phase 3, you had another slide up which showed the trees in a bit more detail. If anyone remembers going to the hospital before we moved onto site, there was a road that ran up the side of the hospital with a load of fruiting trees and things like that. That's what forms, most of those are retained, and that's what forms the new courtyards between the two, within the L plot and the M plot. So there's lots of interesting fruiting trees. There's a very unusual strawberry tree that goes in one of those courtyards. And then the where we have trees preservation orders at the northern end of phase 3, there's what we call the service tree grove with a number of quite mature service trees, which are unusual species of trees that have tree preservation orders.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. I've got Councillor Bevan, then I'll bring you in, Councillor.
Yeah, one point I missed. I seem to have read in the report somewhere that some bike storage was being provided at the rear of the properties. And I think the QRP or somebody made a comment that people wouldn't be willing to cart their bikes through their houses to the back storage unit and all that. So that does seem a bit strange. So can you clarify that?
Yes, there is. It's the houses in particular. And this mirrors the agreed design in the earlier phases, by the way. So, I mean, I speak sort of personally here. I have a road bike that I treasure, and I would not leave it outside the front of the house, even in a locked container. So it is a small compromise. You'd have to take it round to the back of the house and lock it in the storage in the back garden. And that means the bin stores can go out the front, and that was one of the key drivers. So we have the bin stores out the front and the secure bike storage in the garden.
Yeah, just to clarify, it was a TfL suggestion that we might want to consider looking at them at the front, but it wasn't sort of saying they must be at the front or anything. I think I've responded to that in the report there. And yeah, obviously the more you put in those small front gardens, the more sort of busy it looks, and it sort of really detracts from the design as well. And it's more important to have the refuse store there and bins at the bikes at the back. Also, they've got the layouts of the flats is such that you sort of get that clear access into the rear of the site. So it's not like you've got a really convoluted route through or anything.
Councillor O'Donovan?
Thank you. First, I think we would celebrate, we'd welcome the fact that the celebration of the Mulberry Gardens and the heritage value, and we're celebrating the horticulturalists who planted all those things in the 1920s. And it comes on to the community infrastructure that we have here. The first is, I think, in terms of the master plan, it was decided that there wouldn't be any community centre built because the Chestnut Road Community Centre was very close. And I would hope, and I understand that's part of the whole 106 negotiations, I would hope in some way that money to renovate and improve the Chestnut Road, Chestnut Park Community Centre would be part of this development, because it's a well-loved community centre and obviously leads into the park itself. In terms of other community infrastructure, I've seen, well, some of your glossy brochures, your investor's guide, etc., and how wonderful it is. And I'm glad that you've highlighted how wonderful Tottenham is and St Anne's is, because that is true. But in this glossy map, you talk about a dentist, a nursery, you talk about a cafe, a supermarket. They've all got an asterisk next to them, and it all says in very small writing at the bottom, proposed use only. And I can understand you can't now predict whether a dentist would take that space or whether a nursery would take that space. But I would hope that there would be a clear commitment to fill in those spaces as soon as possible, because when people start living there, they will need those community spaces to meet other people, to thrive, to encourage businesses as well to thrive. And quite often when developers come here and then they build their tower blocks, it's quite often there's always spaces at the bottom, because the last thing they think about is, are we going to have an independent cafe? Are we going to have an independent shop? Are we going to have a nursery? Are we going to have a cafe? That's always the last of their priorities. And I hope it's not the last of your priorities.
100% not. It is really my top priority here. You think about the St Anne's site, we're not on a high street. We don't have an abundance of shops on our doorstep. We need to create a place here for 1,000 homes or 2,500 or so people to live in. So shops are absolutely at the heart of that. We have been marketing the commercial units for about a year now. We do have a workspace operator lined up, but not signed on the dotted line yet. We've got interest in the nursery, but again, not signed on the dotted line yet. The reason why we say proposed uses is exactly for that reason. Until it's signed on the dotted line, we can't advertise it. So the smaller buildings at the north of the site, we've had strong interest over the years from the uses that we've set out in that brochure, but we don't have anyone nailed down today. But we want these uses. We want these uses as soon as we possibly can, for perhaps not the first residents moving in, but soon thereafter, next year.
Yeah, okay.
One of the things that people here will want and will value is a local library. And there is a local library, St Anne's Library, very close, but obviously like all libraries all over the country, the library service is in need of funds. And I would hope that through Section 106 or possibly through SIL, there will be a way of supporting the library service, but in particular that St Anne's Library, because libraries they're a valued service, but they are under threat all over the country and they do need support. And this may be a way through developers of getting support to the library service. Thank you.
Can I just jump in and say as well, obviously within this part of the site that we're considering tonight, there is the one commercial element or the one non-residential element, which is for the retail, what's imagined to be the retail unit for small supermarket, as we've been describing it. So although that's obviously an interesting conversation, and want to see how that progresses, those are within the previous phase of development rather than what's considered tonight. But obviously it's helpful to have that discussion while we've got the applicant here.
And Chair, just to add to that, this development does pay CIL, and it is possible for CIL to be spent on libraries. Not a matter for the committee today, but that's decided on by cabinet decisions. But that is technically possible. It's on the list of social infrastructure that CIL can be spent on. And just to give you sort of history and track record, we have spent some amounts of money on CIL on libraries in various places of the borough. So we have done that. The council has done that in the past. So there's no reason why we wouldn't do that in the future.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. So are there any more questions? No? Oh, Councillor Emery.
Are we going to move on to the questions now for the applicant, or have we kind of mixed the two together?
Well, I've mixed the two. Well, I'm hoping that you, if you've got, right. Well, why don't you just say that then? Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I didn't realize we were going to move on. I just wanted to, I'm trying to make things a bit more serious now. Just want a bit more outline in terms of the condition put in place to do with the flood risk and water management plan, and just why there were any kind of issues that caused that to be a problem, including the meeting that happened on the 28th. Is that okay?
Yeah, hi. So with the hybrid, we undertook a comprehensive flood risk assessment and drainage strategy. With each subsequent phase, we have resubmitted that information along with additional detailed sub-strategy and drainage strategy as well. When we submitted that information, we had provided a lot of additional kind of information and material there. There was a query from the flood risk officer in terms of our approach to a couple of more technical aspects of the drainage. So things like flow out from the site and typical flow rates from each phase into different phases. I think in hindsight's great, we should have submitted all of the previous flood risk assessments with this as well, just to tie everything off. Everything has been submitted. I think the drainage officer probably needs to go back through that, and we are in discussions with them. We had a good meeting about 2 weeks ago on that. It is just a matter of tying up the technical information rather than any matters of principle on that. And we're confident, and I believe that the drainage officer, Sam, might be able to confirm, is confident with that. It's just a matter of timing and being able to tie that up. We have no problem with the condition being on there because we see it as a matter that can be addressed relatively easily.
Okay, do you want to come back on that? Right, any more questions, anyone? Okay, thank you. So I'll now ask Catherine Smith to confirm the proposal with a summary of any changes, please.
Thank you, Chair. The main application before you tonight is for the approval of reserved matters in respect of the appearance, the landscaping, the layout, and the scale relating to phase 3 of St Anne's redevelopment of the hospital site. Also for consideration and or conditions, so conditions 61, 62, 63, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 73, 77, 79 and 80, and partial approval of condition 72. Again, all for phase 3 of the wider master plan for the St Anne's redevelopment. The recommendation is to approve the reserve matters and to approve that subject to conditions in the report and also in the addendum. And then also to approve the discharge of the conditions, which I've just listed out there to you, which are attached to the outline planning application. There are no changes arising from the discussion tonight, which changes the description or the outcome of our recommendation to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we will now vote. So all those in favour of this recommendation, please show. That's unanimous. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Thank you to the applicant. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, let's move on then. So we're on to item 8, and that is update on major proposals. Anyone got any questions or comments or queries? Councillor Bevan.
Yeah, I've got 3, so I'll deal them one at a time. On page 182, it's about Bullwater Farm, refurbishment of 2 blocks. Can you explain to me if that refurbishment includes all the latest fire requirements since Grenfell? And just out of interest, is this the first of a project to do all the remaining blocks on Bullwater Farm?
We have John McRory online. I'm hoping he'll be able to answer your question. Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Chair. Yes, Councillor Bevan, it's yes to both questions there on the fire, and also with regards to the start of the overall development that's been approved.
Okay.
The second one is on page 183, Draper's Almhouses. Are we checking, these are almhouses, so there must be some historical law or agreement that they'd be let for that purpose? I'm getting the impression that developers want to do something totally different. Are we checking the historic legal things that might still be in force?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Councillor Bevan, we are looking at that. We're doing quite a deep dive into that at the moment, so we'll have those answers to that at the following committee. That's what we're looking to report to.
And then on page 185, Tottenham Hotspur, their residential towers, that planning permission was given many years ago. Are those towers being totally redesigned to have 2 sets of stairs and all the relevant new requirements in? Because that must be quite a big project for them, and they would probably have to come back before planning again.
We come in. You got the case officer for that one here. They've submitted the application for the last reserve matters. That does also include the detailed layouts for all the residential blocks, and they have been through sort of quite excruciating pre-apps to get to that stage and make sure that they have got the design now. I think they do lose a few units within this plot, so that as a result of it. But yeah, it's going to be coming forward imminently, I imagine, once with that, and you'll get some of that detail within there. But it has also had HSE comments on that, on the Gateway 1, and they're satisfied with that as well, so that's positive.
Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. It's page 188, the Ashley Road and Cannon Factory site, which it has been demolished. That whole site is clear, and I understand the housing association were the developers before. According to this, we've understood there was financial problems, but the site is now for sale, I understand. Has there been any new developments in relation to that?
So there has been some sort of soft pre-apps on that, and putting the feelers out as to what might be acceptable on that, Councillor O'Donovan, but nothing come forward as yet formally.
Just in addition to that, the original plan was included a nursery, and a lot of people in the local area were looking forward to that nursery. In terms of the pre-app, is there a possible nursery still an option?
Yes, well, they'll propose what they propose as such, but officers would be guiding them as to what we would like to see on that site, and also what as a consent already. So that will be something we would push and ask for answers on.
a different site, which is, well, actually, it's a decision that we made earlier in the year, and I know we've spoken in relation to this. It was the decision to allow Spurs to have a number of extra non-football events, which is due for a review. Perhaps you could just confirm where we are in relation to that review and who the review will be heard by. Will it be the panel? Will it be the cabinet? Sorry, the council as a whole? Thank you.
Thank you. So this is the review mechanism about the cap of the number of events for Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for major non-football events that committee granted, I think, on the 1st of August 2024, so over a year ago now. So that needs to, the applicant, Tottenham Hotspur, need to submit a report to us by the middle of October, and then the council needs to make a decision by the middle of December on a review mechanism on various aspects of delivery of events to see what's worked well and how that's going, and if any changes need to be made to that. So those are roughly the timescales, October through to December decision. In terms of who makes that decision, the default setting is it's essentially a discharge of a Section 106 planning obligation. So those are normally done under delegated powers by officers. Obviously, we would consult and engage with planning committee members, and we would consult and engage with local ward members, and we would also expect and require Tottenham Hotspur to do engagement as well. However, I am seeking legal advice to see if members wanted that to be made by a sort of member decision, where would that go? So I don't have the advice on that yet, but I will make sure to share that advice when I get it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rice.
People's Cottage on the River Lee. What's happened to that? It's sort of fallen out of the by the looks of it.
Keeper's Cottage on the River Lee? No, it's just nothing. I assume that means nothing's come forward. Yes.
No.
Yeah, nothing's come forward on it. Yeah.
That's right, Chair. Nothing's come forward on that.
As John said, and Richard, nothing's come forward on it, so it's nothing. They haven't brought anything forward, although it was on. Richard, if I can bring you in.
Well, there was a planning application for 3 or 4 years ago, but they've not come. There was then a pre-app a couple of years ago, but then we gave them a pre-app report on that pre-app, and we've never heard anything from them since.
And when it comes to this committee in the Yeoman Welfare decision?
I missed that because of the. Can you just repeat that, please? I missed it because of the.
Be clear, is this application progressing in a normal way? Why not?
The applicants have chosen not to progress the application.
We got there in the end. Sorry.
On page 188, it does say follow-up pre-application being arranged. Is that incorrect?
Just repeat. Sorry, 188.
Maybe I should hand over to John.
John, can you come in on this one? The Lockkeeper's Cottage.
Yeah. So there was an extant permission many years, quite a few years ago on this site, but they've not come forward with any conditions to discharge. So it's all gone quiet there. There's been a pre-apps some time after, and there was talk a little while ago that they wanted to come back with another pre-app, but that's gone quiet. So on that list, I'm afraid there's that hasn't been revised. So apologies for that, Chair.
Okay, thank you. there's an error on the on this. It should have been taken off because the applicants haven't brought anything forward. So we apologise for that, and we will make sure if they still don't bring anything forward that we take it off the list. Okay, thank you. Right. So Councillor Brennan, thank you.
Looking right at the end at page 189, the YMCA, can I just ask, so are these, where it says 150 bed spaces configured into cluster flats and move-on flats, does that actually, whereas the previous thing actually caters for young people, will this new one no longer cater for young people, for replacement?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so we had the pre-application on that last week. It will still be catering for young people, but it's quite there's more nuance to it now. So it's across the piece of of many people that require different needs. So yeah, but the short answer is yes, it will still cater for young people.
Okay, thank you for that. So we're on to item 9, which is applications determined under delegated powers. And I've lost, that's page 191. Any questions on that, please? Comments? No? Okay. So item 10 is new items of urgent business, and there are none. And item 11 is the date of the next meeting, which is the 9th of October. So thank you very much, everyone, and good evening. Thank you.